Okay, we're on lesson 6, home insurance. And you know what the main thing that's different about home insurance versus vehicle insurance is that here in Manitoba, you cannot drive a car unless you are paying for insurance, right? We talked about that. MPIC, Manitoba Public Insurance, AutoPack. That is the law. You have to have that in order to be driving. Home insurance, that's not true. Home insurance, you don't have to get home insurance if you don't want to, right? We did talk about how there is a little bit of mortgage insurance that you pay when you get a mortgage, but that's not the same as an actual insurance for your home. Now, let's start by quickly refreshing our memory as to what insurance actually is, right? Insurance is something that, here, let's just take the word itself, the word insurance. Insurance, of course, is protection from financial loss. Okay, and of course, this is a word we should know what this means too. What do we mean by a policy? Well, think about where you use that word in regular everyday life. It's the policy of Fort Richmond Collegiate that everybody should have to wear pants to school, right? Those are policies, they're rules. So policy is, of course, the rules. And in legal terms, a list of rules is called a contract. So your policy is your contract with the company that you buy your insurance from. And contracts are lists of rules. And there's rules for you that say you have to make your payments and that you can't burn down your house on purpose and say that I'd like the insurance money, please. But there's rules for them too. There's rules for them that say if something bad happens and it's not your fault, they have to pay you. Okay? They have to compensate you for your financial loss. In, I want to say 2018, 2019? I think it was my first year here. Yeah, 2018? First or second year here at FRC? I guess it'd be my second year here. I was upstairs in bed already, watching TV. My wife was sound asleep. My youngest son was the only one up. He was still up sitting at the kitchen table doing his homework. And some meth head walked by my house on the street and decided to pick up one of the cement blocks that has a nice little garden in front of my house and hurl it through my dining room window. Just, why not? Because when you're a crackhead, that's what you do, I guess. I don't know. But okay, so it's like, all right, well, now I've got this big hole in my window. I, of course, pay for insurance. And here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing that happened there, is that it came through the window, it knocked over a chair, and as the chair hit the floor, it made a scratch in the hardwood floor. And then, of course, the cement cinder block made a big scratch in the hardwood floor. So they sent over somebody from the insurance company to appraise the damage and said, well, of course, we're replacing this window. And then he looks at the floor and goes, I'm going to get a flooring guy in here to look at the flooring. Can we replace these couple of pieces of your hardwood floor? Or do we have to just give you a new room's worth of hardwood floor? And then the hardwood floor guy came in. He took a look at the fact that my hardwood floors are pretty old. They'd been redone a few times. I'm in a 70-year-old house. So that was original wood to the house, and it had been refinished a couple times. And every time you redo your hardwood floors, you sand them down, they get skinnier and skinnier. The guy looks and he goes, there's not enough wood left here to fix this. So you're getting new hardwood floors. And then he goes, well, this hardwood goes through your kitchen, your dining room, your living room, all replaced. So I got brand new hardwood floors because some meth head decided to throw a brick through my window. That's insurance. It's like I won a lottery or something. They did actually check to make sure. I did phone the police, and apparently this guy, he broke into some cars further down the street. He threw things at other people's houses. This guy was on quite the tear through my neighborhood. And they did check with the police to make sure that was what really happened. Because obviously, my story has to be backed up and corroborated. I couldn't just sit there one night and get the bright idea, I'd like new hardwood floors. I think I'll go outside and throw a brick through my window and say that some guy did it. Obviously, you'd get caught if you did something like that. You'd get charged with what's called insurance fraud because you have a contract and violating that contract is fraud. You've probably seen the commercials on TV for auto fraud where people People will claim that they've been hurt in an automobile accident and maybe they're not as hurt as they say they are. So they try to get paid saying, oh, I'm too sick and too hurt to go to work. Meanwhile, they're fine, right? There's commercials on TV about that and about how eventually you will probably get caught. Certainly they will investigate you. So anyway, that's one time I've used insurance. There was one other time I have actually put in a claim for insurance on my house, and that was in 2015, because there was a tornado in St. Norbert, or not St. Norbert, Headingley. I'm on the wrong side of town. There was a tornado touchdown in Headingley, which was close enough to me in West St. James, Westwood, I don't even know. What neighborhood do I live in, West St. James? Close to the west perimeter. I was close enough to that storm that a lot of shingles of my roof blew right off. Just whoosh, away they went. And that happened to some houses along my street. Like there was probably about 10 of us along the street that had one neighbor had like a complete demolish of his roof because a tree kind of went right through it. For me, it was just loss of shingles. And so I phone again. I got to make a claim on this, I guess. So I phoned my insurance company, and they couldn't get to my house right away. They said, well, we'll send somebody to just tack up and put some plastic over just to kind of get you through because it was really rainy and stormy, get you through the next few storms because you've got obviously no protection on your roof. And the person they said didn't do a great job of that. So I started getting leaks in my attic, and eventually, every time it rained, I was getting damage in my attic and leaks. So by the time the insurance company got around to actually paying somebody to repair the damage, they had to completely re-insulate my attic, and they had to, again, there was a floor that needed replacing because there was a closet that got all wet. So once again, that worked out good for me. It was kind of a drag to have a leaky roof for a while. But yeah, that's how insurance works. You see, I didn't have to pay for that because it wasn't my fault. I pay a contract that says, hey, if storm damage happens to my house, I get covered and protected from that financial loss. So that's the only two times I've ever used my house insurance, and I've been in the house now for 21 years. I think that's right, 21 years now. And in my previous house that I owned for 4 years, I never once made a claim. My parents lived in the same house. My mom's still there. My dad's passed on, but it was built. They bought it as it was being built in I think 1966 or 67. Still there, and they've made one claim. So now you compare. Now you're probably thinking, wow, you got a whole bunch of work done to your house, a new roof, and then you got all new hardwood floors. You probably have made a profit here. You've probably gotten more value dollar-wise of work done to your house than you've paid in insurance. Well, I don't know, because I've been paying insurance for 21 years. It's not cheap, as you're about to find out. We're going to do some math on that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure out if I've broken even or done better. Certainly my parents are well behind on the game. They've made one claim. It was really minor. Just somebody had in a car accident, went over part of our yard and knocked over a tree, so they had to pay to get an arborist to come and replant and fix the tree. That's it. That's the only claim my parents have ever had. So certainly the hundreds of dollars they pay in house insurance every year 2 years would cover that. And they've been paying it for what? Do the math. 1966, 67 till now. So anyway, insurance is a bit of a gamble, right? You pay it hoping you don't need it, but when you do, it's there. What if you don't have it? What if your house becomes unlivable due to fire, due to storm, and you don't have that protection financially? Then what? You still have to keep paying your mortgage. That's a contract too. So anyway, insurance policies. Okay, first of all, we're going to talk about Tenants Package. What if you're just a renter? You're a tenant. And that's an insurance policy that protects renters from loss of contents of their rental units or personal belongings. So, example one, Joe rents an apartment. He calculates that the value of his clothes, his stereo, his furniture, and his other possessions is $25,000. He wants to buy a Tenants Package policy with a $200 deductible. Remember what deductible means from the vehicle finance unit? That's how much you have to pay when you make a claim. To protect against financial loss in the event of a robbery, he chooses the comprehensive plan, find his annual premium. So, this you can look up on the chart, the tenants, not this chart, the chart that's at the back, I didn't even bring this one up. This is the tenants chart. So go to the back of the booklets, and there we go. So there it is. He wants a comprehensive plan for $25,000. First one on the chart, $200. So there we go. Oh, and he wants to have a $200 deductible, right? So the $200 deductible, usually the deductible is $500. He wants, in case he has to make a claim, he wants to not have to pay $500. He wants to have to pay only $200, which means he has to pay more for that. So he has to increase his premium by 10%. So it's $200 increased by 10%. Okay, so let's go back to the work here. So it's $200. Oops, too far. There we go. So $200 increased by 10%. So I want all of this number plus 10% of this number. So I want 110% of this number. And there we go. What's that going to be? Well, 10% of 200 is 20. So he is paying $220 a year for insurance. That's pretty low, actually. You're going to see that house insurance actually is going to generally cost more than that. Okay, that's it for the tenant example. We're going to move on to homeowners now, not renters. And got a couple of just notes we're going to make here. First of all, there's kind of two types of insurance most people buy. One is called standard insurance, also known as standard form insurance. Sometimes it's also called broad form, because it covers a broad range of things. Broad form insurance. And this covers you for loss or damage due to a set list of causes. We also call those set list of causes perils. The perils, the things that could be dangerous to your house. If you buy standard form insurance, your insurer is not responsible for a loss caused by something not listed in the set of rules, which we call, again, the policy, the contract. So if I have a standard form insurance, I probably have a list. You are covered in case of fire. You're covered in case of your roof collapses because of a heavy storm. You are covered in case of burglary or theft. You are covered in case of, and then they'll list all those things. And then an elephant escapes from the local zoo, runs through your house, knocks down all the walls, and you go to your insurance company and say, help, cover me, my house is damaged from an elephant. They'll go, let's see, fire, storm, no elephant, sorry, you're on your own. Now that's probably a ridiculous example. Very, very few people have had their houses damaged by elephant. Might be somebody here from India going, well, that happens. But okay, here in North America, let's say that doesn't happen very often. And let's just say that weird things can happen, right? You're taking a bit of a risk here that something not listed, bizarre, might happen, okay? The other type of insurance, which is the one that most of us have, is called comprehensive. And it's kind of the opposite. The nickname for comprehensive is, in the industry especially, they call it all peril insurance. And all peril insurance covers you for loss for any reason except the causes listed in the policy. So, for example, standard, well, do you see the difference? Standard form is basically a list of things that you're covered for. You're covered for fire, you're covered for burglary, you're covered for theft, you're covered for this, you're covered for that. Whereas comprehensive, here's a list of things that if they happened, we don't cover you. And of course, the best insurance would be the ones where this is the smallest possible list. Here in Winnipeg, a lot of comprehensive insurance plans, what they will list as the things that you are not covered for is flood protection. Because you've looked around outside, right? We're flat. This place is flat. Winnipeg, there's very few places on the planet flatter than Winnipeg. Manitoba, the prairies. And we flood a lot. If you live within the city of Winnipeg limits, you're within the floodway, you can pay for a comprehensive insurance plan that will include protection from flooding. But if you live outside the perimeter, it's actually very, very hard. You'd have to pay a lot of money for your premium, right, your payments, right, your premium, your payment. You have to pay a lot for your premium to include flood protection, either in a standard form, so it's listed the things that you are protected from, versus, or it's not listed on the comprehensive plan as something you're not covered for. Okay, so say you do live within the city limits, but you live in an older neighborhood with an older sewage system, and you get sewage backup sometimes. Very few homeowners will cover you for sewage backup. So a comprehensive plan will probably say covers you for loss for any reason except things were damaged in your house because your sewer backed up. So that'd be one of the things listed on a comprehensive plan. Okay. What other things might you have to worry about? Obviously, take a look at the two plans here. Guess which one's more expensive? This one by a mile. This one is more expensive. Okay. So this, by the way, is not the same. I'm going to put this as a note. Not the same as what we call in the insurance business a rider. Let's say that you have in your house a very, very expensive art collection on your walls, or a lot of musical instruments that could be stolen, and you want specific insurance on those items in case you have to suffer the financial loss of something happening to them. Specific clauses in an insurance contract for specific items that are really expensive compared to the rest of your house, for example, those are called riders. Specific items in a contract are called riders. Riders can happen in any type of contract. There's a really famous story from the world of rock and roll about how Van Halen, the band from the 1970s and 80s who got really big, they were huge, especially in the early 80s. They had a rider in their contract that said that they had to have specific snacks backstage for their show. And that's not unusual. Everybody has that, right? You know, I want some Perrier, I want some water, I'd like a few sandwiches, put out a cheese plate or something. Van Halen had a very specific one. They would like a bowl of M&Ms, but they want all the green ones taken out. That's in their contract, that's in their rider. Now, that got reported in the 1980s. I remember reading that in like a rock and roll magazine, Rolling Stone or something, thinking, wow, that is the height of, what is it, maybe decadence, right? What excess, what spoiled brat babies these rock stars are that really, like, the sight of a green M&M is going to offend you. I got this, sorry if this is a spoiler alert, sorry if this is like telling you there's no Santa Claus, but the M&Ms actually all taste the same. The colors don't add any flavor. So what the heck was that about? David Lee Roth finally wrote, he was the lead singer of Van Halen, he finally wrote a autobiography where he talked about there was a very specific reason why we did that. If we went backstage and either there was no bowl of M&Ms or there was a bowl of M&Ms and they didn't take out the green ones, we knew right away somebody didn't read the contract very carefully. And when we went, and he said, we were one of the first really big bands to go to smaller arenas. And we were playing like university basketball arenas and stuff. And our stage, if it wasn't put together right, and the lights weren't hung right, and the stage wasn't balanced right, people would die. It was dangerous. So as soon as we would go backstage, and there's a bowl of M&Ms, and there are green M&Ms, show's over. You are in violation of contract, because if that's wrong, chances are something important is wrong, and somebody could die. So that was what that was about. So I thought that was cool. So that's what a rider is. A rider is a specific thing in the contract. I did think about getting a rider for my comic book collection until I realized that if I'd have sold my comic collection like 20 years ago, I'd got a lot more for it than I would now, because believe it or not, comics have lost their value, although apparently they're kind of coming up again. So I don't know. I might still think about doing this. But then I got to pay for how much every year for this rider, because of course this costs extra. So a rider, again, is specific insurance for specific items that you might own. Items. In my case, it'd be a comic book collection that I've been working on since I was 10 or whatever. Okay, so there we go. So that's a rider. People say, oh, comprehensive means it includes everything in your house, even the expensive stuff. No, that's not quite what it means. Comprehensive means it's comprehensive in the perils that it covers. They have to say, if they're not going to cover you for something, they have to specifically say what it is. So the elephant running through your house, oh, that wasn't listed here, sorry, you're not getting your elephant coverage. But in a comprehensive plan, they have no choice. We didn't think to write down you are not covered in case you get run over by an elephant. So we got to cover you. Okay? But, oh, wait a minute, look, it says right here, not covered for sewer backup. So there you go. A rider is a specific clause. So there's all the types of insurance you should know about. Let's do some math. Oh, actually, wait a minute, sorry, one more little block of notes, not as much writing though. Obviously, a homeowner's insurance is going to protect homeowners and guys who own condominiums, right? Condominium, house, same thing, from fire, burglary, storm damage. It covers your contents, the building, and it covers liability, right? If you pay for an insurance package and somebody injures themselves while they're at your house or working in your house, then of course it's covered in your insurance. That's what your liability is. Remember, we had that in vehicle finance too. That was called third-party liability. If you cause an accident that causes somebody else to get hurt, they're not going to sue you directly. Your insurance pays for that. Same is true for homeowners insurance. Deductibles are usually between $200 and $500. I think mine's in the $300 range. And premiums, right, which is how much you pay, increase based on number of claims. So yeah, I've made 2 claims and that probably made my insurance go up a little, but I have a feeling it was worth it. Now, what affects the cost besides number of claims? Well, like they say in real estate, location, location, location. The location is the biggest thing that affects how much it costs to insure your house. And Manitoba is broken up into 4 zones. Zone 1, excuse me, is what we call Metro Winnipeg. And the nickname for Metro, or Metro just means inside the city. And really what they're talking about is inside the floodway. So yeah, Winnipeg is prone to floods. 1950, there was one that there was actually about a foot of water over all of St. James. You know where Polo Park is right now? That was under about a foot and a half of water in 1950. So that's zone 1, Metro Winnipeg, which is inside the floodway. That wouldn't happen now with the same storm because we have a big ditch that got dug all the way around the city that helps move water that is about to threaten to flood Winnipeg, and it moves it all the way up to Lake Winnipeg, and away it goes up into Hudson Bay. So zone 1 is inside the city, and of course, companies will sell insurance to people living in here, and those insurance packages will cover you for flood protection. Area 2, you might not get covered for flood protection, depends where it is, but Area 2 is in a town or a small city. Sorry, Brandon, but we call you a smaller city. Smaller than Winnipeg. This is Manitoba. We basically have 1 city in this province. Brandon, we're a city? No, you're not. Dream on, Brandon. Area 3 is on a farm. Now you might be wondering, why would they calculate insurance different between a town and a farm? Well, in a town or a smaller city, you still have the infrastructure of fire hydrants, right? You still have water running under the streets, under the boulevards. So if a house starts to catch fire or a property starts to catch fire, a fire department can come and put it out reasonably quickly. Whereas on Area 3, that's not true. And then, of course, Area 4 would be basically anything else. Area 4 is that you live remotely. You don't live in farm country. You live in an area that can't be reached by fire department. Right? You live out in the boonies, out in the sticks, out in the wilderness, live out in the trap line somewhere, you are not going to get fire insurance of any kind because you don't live even close to a volunteer fire department like a small town would have or farm country would have. And even in farm country, there are types of fire insurance you can't get for farms. Right? If your barn burns down because a fire starts in the hay that you have stored there, that's likely not going to be covered in any farm insurance. It's just too big a risk for the insurance company to take. Okay, so location is the biggest factor affecting costs, but there's a few others. There is your neighborhood, you in neighborhood like a true Canadian, neighborhood crime rate. If you live in a neighborhood with a higher crime rate than other neighborhoods, yeah, your insurance company will base how much you pay for your insurance on that, and you'll have to pay a little bit more because they're more worried about theft that they'll have to cover you for. Fire safeguards. Obviously, if you're surrounded by lots and lots and lots of trees, you live in the middle of the park, even if it's within a city, you're a bigger fire risk than somebody who lives somewhere not near those things. Right? How close are fire hydrants to your house? Again, living in Winnipeg or a town means that you're probably close enough that any fire department can get water to your property if there's a fire on it. But not necessarily, right? There are definitely a few kind of enclaves and corners within the city where you might be a long way from a fire hydrant. So they'll just have to get a pumper truck over and, fill it with water. That's going to take time and make it more likely that more damage happens in a fire. So that costs you more for insurance. The materials that your house is made of, materials, condition, and age of your home. Those things matter. We already kind of mentioned this above, but we'll say it again. How many previous claims you've made. The more claims you make, the more they're going to charge you. This matters. Credit score. If you have bad credit, they'll probably charge you a little more for the insurance that they'll offer to sell you because you're a bit more of a risk to make your payments. And finally, which deductible do you pick? Do you want to pay the $200 deductible in case you have to make a claim? Well, that's going to cost you more for the policy then. All right, let's do some math. Example 2. Pierre and Susie have purchased a home that if they wanted to try to replace it would cost them $175,000. They wish to purchase standard coverage with a $500 deductible. Calculate their annual premium. So let's see. So let's go to the table. I don't have to scroll to the very back this time. I actually moved it over. Here it is. There it is. There's the table from the back of your booklet. Come on, you. There. I got to shrink it a little so you can see the whole thing. There it is. So there it is. Homeowners insurance, table 5. And okay, so $175,000 is right here. And they want a $500 deductible. And they live in Winnipeg. So 175, Metro Winnipeg, there's the number right there. $607. So that's it. I know I said we're doing math, but yeah, read from a chart, that's math. So that's it. You just get the number, $607. Okay, we got to make it a little harder than this. How about we put a part B on this problem? Let's say, what if they wanted a lower deductible? They want a $200 deductible. Deductible. Okay, now what? What changes about it? Well, go back to the chart, and we already saw this is the same as it was in the tenants chart. I think they add 10%, right? If instead of a $500 deductible you'd like a $200, you increase your premium by 10%. So instead of the $600 a year, what if it was 10% more? So I want 110% of $607, which is $667.70. So in other words, in case they have to make a claim, they only pay $200 instead of $500, but that's costing them $60 a year. So if they don't make a claim in 10 years, that kind of wasted money. But you don't know that you're not going to make a claim in 10 years. All right, let's go back to Pierre and Susie. They've moved up in the world. Their starter home they got out of, now they're in a bigger house. This one now costs $375 if they had to replace it. But they decided to get out of the city. Too much traffic, too much hassle. They want the quiet life. They want to have room for dogs to run and kids to play. So they've moved outside the perimeter, and they're in area 2. They wish to purchase standard coverage with a $500 deductible, calculate their premium. So let's go back to the chart. And on the charts, people are at home going, really? Is this all we do is just look up numbers from a chart? There's no math to this. Hang on. There's a little bit of math to this now, because notice the chart only goes up to $200,000. These guys have purchased a house that costs way more than that, $375,000. So how do we calculate this? Well, they are in area 2, and they want standard coverage. So that's $519. So it's $500.19, but for every $1,000 above $200,000 that they want to be insured for every additional $1,000, it costs $2.75. So what's the math on that looking like? Okay, so here's how that works. So, come back. There we go. So they have to pay the $519 for the first $200,000 of insurance, plus $2.75 for every $1,000 more than $200,000 they're insuring for. So let's take their house, $375,000, subtract the $200,000, and that's $175,000. So that's how much more than $200,000 they're buying. So that's what they have to actually multiply and do. So let's do that calculation. 519 plus 2.75 times 100. Oh, sorry. For every 1,000. So I have to divide that number by 1,000. Forgot. Divide by 1,000. There we go. Cancel the zeros. Right? For every $1,000 more. How many $1,000 is this? 175 of them. So it's 519 plus 2.75 times 175, which ends up being $1,025 per year for insurance. That seems pretty much. I think mine's a little more than that. Just to do the math for me, 21 years, I think I pay around $1,200 yearly for my insurance. I'm fairly well insured. So let's see, 21 times 12. If you put together how much the hardwood floor on the main floor of my house and redoing a bunch of walls and my roof, would all those costs together equal that? Probably if close, if not more. Interesting. Okay, anyway. So that's it. That's actually all there is to insurance. You look up a number off the chart. If the number is bigger than the bottom row of the chart, you got to do this part. You have to say, okay, how many thousands past the bottom of the chart are we? Times that by whatever the number is that you have to times by. And that's it. That's all there is to home insurance. So I was going to talk about maintenance today too. And okay, so maintenance. Maintenance means that there are things you can do, of course, to keep your house upkept and in order. Preventative maintenance is when you do small repairs that are done to keep maintenance problems from becoming larger and more expensive to fix. So why is preventative maintenance important? And then budgeting. Well, preventative maintenance is important because if small repairs aren't made, they can grow into larger, more expensive repairs. Now, how do you budget for that? I'm saying you as in a homeowner, you should budget 2 months worth of that's supposed to be an of, not an or, of mortgage payments. Pen's being weird today. Per year in case of needed repairs. You should kind of have like a separate bank account that you're putting savings aside, a couple of months worth of mortgage payments a year in case something breaks that you should fix. And of course, the more on top of the small things you are, the less likely you are to have big problems, right? A small leak will over time do a ton of damage to your house. So fixing that small leak when you first notice it makes your life a lot better. Here's a good example of that. The roof on Henry's house is about 5 years old. With good care, it should last 15 to 30 years, depending on how much rain you get, how much snow lands on top of it. Suppose that Henry does not do preventative maintenance. What expensive emergency repairs might he have to do later? Well, he might have to. He may end up having to replace his entire, that's an I, roof. Now, what are the regular jobs you can do to protect your roof? Don't let too much snow accumulate on it. Every once in a while you hear about a year with heavy snow actually collapses rooftops. It can happen. Keep the Eavestroughs clean and clear. Everybody knows what the Eavestroughs are, right? Those little gutters along the top of your roof that allow the water to roll off your roof and then it just drains it out and dumps it back on the ground somewhere. If those get clogged, eventually water is just going to start pooling on your roof and your roof's going to start to leak. And then finally, I'll try to squeeze this in. Make sure your shingles are in good shape. Make sure that none of them are peeling up where water could get in under them. Make sure that around the vents they aren't kind of pulling away so that water can leak down your vent. Suppose that Henry does not do the jobs listed. What expensive emergency repairs might his house need? Well, leaks through the roof could damage his insulation. It could damage his walls, ceiling, and of course, he may end up having to replace the whole roof when all he had to do is maybe fix a few shingles once in a while, or clean the Eavestroughs once in a while. Those things there are very expensive. Paying a guy once a year to go up and make sure that my roof still looks good, none of the shingles are loose. I don't do it myself. I hate climbing ladders. I'm bad at it. I'm clumsy. And I have a 2-story house, so I just pay somebody to do it. Okay. Now, around your house, what kind of jobs do you do monthly, annually, or maybe once a decade? Well, you know what? I'm actually not going to do a ton of this. I'll just give you a couple of examples. An example, something you should do monthly is clean out your dryer vent. Right? You do a lot of laundry, especially you got a house like mine with 5 adults living in it. We go through a lot of laundry. Lint builds up in the little vent that takes the hot air from your dryer outside. That can cause a fire eventually if you don't clean it out. You can burn down your house that way. Something else you should check every month is maybe the seals around your doors. Make sure they're good. Okay. There's lots of others like this. I'll just give you a couple of examples. Something you'd maybe only do once a year is have your furnace, and I just misspelled furnace, furnace, air conditioner, and your furnace, your air conditioner, and your hot water tank inspected. Right? Remember that those things, the air conditioners are pretty much all electric, but they still, they sap a lot of energy, and if they stop running properly, they're going to cost you a lot in your energy bills, and of course they can get dangerous, right? Like anything that's an electrical appliance, if it uses a lot of electricity, if it's not working properly, it could start a fire. Furnaces are, of course, heat objects and burning. They have to be inspected to make sure they're burning properly, or else they can lead to fire. And same thing with your hot water tank. Now, what job would you do maybe once a decade? Well, that would be things like maybe landscaping, to make sure water runs away from your house's foundation. Right? I had to do that once. It's like one summer or one spring, we noticed as the snow was melting, oh, we're getting a little bit of water in the corner of the basement on this side. And we realized when the snow finally all left, it's like, oh yeah, the yard's kind of sunk a little bit over here. So we dealt with that. Got some landscaping done, built it up. Haven't had that problem since. And that was 10 years ago, so that's a good once a decade kind of a thing. And again, these are just examples. There's a lot of responsibilities when you own a house. There's a lot of little things that you kind of don't realize. Oh yeah. Here, this is a good one. If most people once a decade would probably have their sewer drain that goes all the way from under your house to the street cleaned out by a professional to make sure you're not going to have sewer backup. I do that annually because I have trees on my property that their roots grow in to my sewer line, and I know that, and we've had it happen a couple of times, if I don't take care of this once a year, every year and a half or so we're going to get sewer backup. So I just do it once a year. Most people don't have to do it once a year. They do it once every 10 years maybe. So again, clean out sewers. That kind of depends. For me, I'm here with that. Most people would be here with that. If you were over here on the monthly with that, move, because there's something drastically wrong with your sewer line. Okay, so there we go. There's just some kind of common maintenance things. And there we go. That's basically all there is to this. We don't have any mathy examples. Okay, I'm going to stop my little lesson here. I feel like I've been talking all class. Sorry, I was rambling on. Okay, thanks for watching, people who watched from home.